The bell above the cafe door chimed softly, and at the very last table by the window, a man who owned more money than most people would earn in 10 lifetimes stared into a cup of coffee he hadn't touched. If you're here for a story that reminds you how one small moment can change everything, stay with me until the end, and if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes the smallest gestures deserve the widest audience. He was known in business magazines as a ruthless genius, a self-made millionaire who never wasted time on things that didn't bring returns. But that morning, returns meant nothing. The cafe smelled of warm bread and cinnamon, yet all he could taste was the bitterness of a sleepless night. His phone lay face down on the table, silent for once, and he welcomed the quiet. He had come here to disappear for a few minutes, to be just another man in a crowded city. That's when a small shadow fell across his table. "Mister, can you fix my toy?" Her voice was barely louder than the clinking cups around them. He looked up, surprised, and saw a little girl standing there, no more than 7 or 8 years old. She held a stuffed rabbit, one ear hanging by a few threads, its button eye loose. The toy looked old, loved, and repaired many times before. Behind her stood a woman, young but worn in a way that told a story of too many responsibilities and not enough rest. "I'm sorry," the woman said quickly, pulling the girl back a little. "She shouldn't bother you." But the man didn't look away. Something in the girl's eyes stopped him. They weren't demanding. They were hopeful, fragile, like she had already learned that hope didn't always get rewarded. "It was our last gift from Dad," the girl added softly, clutching the rabbit tighter, as if afraid it might disappear if she loosened her grip. The word, last, landed hard. The man gestured to the empty chair. "Sit," he said before he could talk himself out of it. "Let me see." The woman hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, but the girl's face lit up just enough to make her give in. The man took the rabbit carefully, as if it were something far more valuable than it looked. He turned it over in his hands, examining the torn seam. "I'm not very good with toys," he admitted. "That's okay," the girl said. Dad wasn't either. He still tried. Something in the man's chest tightened. He remembered being too busy once. Too busy to notice small hands reaching for him, too busy to fix things that mattered. He asked the cafe server for a small sewing kit, something he wouldn't have dared ask for in his polished boardrooms. When it arrived, he worked slowly, awkwardly, threading the needle with the concentration of someone defusing a bomb. The girl watched every move, her feet swinging back and forth, whispering encouragement as if the rabbit could hear. As he stitched, the woman spoke quietly, almost apologetically. "Her father passed away last year. The hospital bills took everything. This toy, it's all she has left that was just from him." The man nodded, unable to trust his voice. He finished the last stitch, tied the thread, and gently tugged the ear. It held. "There," he said, handing the rabbit back. The girl hugged it to her chest, eyes shining. "You fixed him," she whispered. Then, without warning, she leaned forward and wrapped her arms around the man's neck. For a moment, time stopped. He hadn't been hugged like that in years, not since the day his own life had broken in a way money couldn't repair. He felt something crack open inside him, something he had sealed shut a long time ago. "Thank you, mister," the girl said. "Dad would like you." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to thank you." He waved it off, standing up, suddenly restless. He paid their bill, then paused, as if listening to a voice only he could hear. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a card, and slid it across the table. "If you ever need help," he said simply, "call this number." She looked at the card, then at him, disbelief written across her face. "I can't." "You can," he interrupted gently. "Please." They left the cafe a few minutes later, the bell chiming again as the door closed behind them. The man sat back down, staring at the empty chair across from him. The cafe felt different now. Lighter. Or maybe heavier, in a way that mattered. Days passed, but the moment didn't leave him. He found himself thinking about the girl, about the rabbit, about the way she had trusted him without knowing who he was. When the call finally came, it wasn't a request for money. The woman just wanted advice. Work. Stability. He helped quietly. A job recommendation. Childcare support. Nothing flashy. No headlines. Months later, he received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a drawing of a man with a crooked smile holding hands with a little girl and a rabbit with two perfect ears. On the back, in uneven handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for fixing what was broken." He sat there for a long time, staring at the drawing, realizing the truth. He hadn't fixed a toy that day. He had fixed something inside himself. From then on, he started seeing people differently. Not as numbers, not as problems to solve or opportunities to seize, but as stories still being written. He began showing up where he never would have before. Shelters, cafes, hospitals, places where life was raw and real. And every time he felt himself slipping back into the cold comfort of wealth and distance, he remembered a small voice asking, "Can you fix my toy?" Because sometimes, the smallest request carries the heaviest meaning. Sometimes, what's broken isn't the thing in your hands, but the heart holding it. And sometimes, the greatest wealth you'll ever find is the chance to matter to someone, even for a moment.